So I don't know if you've heard about this, but there's a new grid game on the way. Let me just put it this way. I quite like the grid games to the point that I have literally played every single grid game in the entire timeline. That's how much I like the grid series. So you better damn well know that I'm pretty damn excited for this new one. And I have to answer this question for you right now. Is it going to be any good? Yeah. Actually. Hello people of the internet, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about a video game. It's the new Grid. Your boy was very kindly invited along by Codemasters to a sneaky little preview event. I got invited along to give the game a play, which was very interesting given that the game is about just under a month away from release now. It was supposed to be out, I think, by now, which I don't mind. I'm not one of these people who's like, oh, this game's been delayed, that sucks. I'm like, well, what do you want? Do you want a finished game, or do you want an unfinished game a little bit sooner? It's a bit like the people that moan about the Crossrail delays. It's like, yeah, it sucks that it's not going to be open for another couple of years. Would you rather a finished railway line be open then, or one rushed to open now, where the train falls over and catches fire as soon as it leaves the first station? Getting a chance to play it in its current state, very fascinating, and I got to play it on two platforms, on PC and on PS4, which is where I'll likely be playing it when I get the game. The majority of the playtime, and indeed the exclusive footage you will see in this video, was taken from my session on the PC. Basically, you had booked slots to play them on a selection of PC rigs set up, and then after that you could sort of hang out, and it being Escape Bar, they have games console set up, so they basically put in some extra consoles with the preview builds of the game already on there as well, so you could play a bit more of it on there. My first impressions of the game are fairly simple. This is the game that Grid Autosport always wanted to be. Grid Autosport is a game that I love very much. Unfortunately, it was right at the end of that generation and right around the time the now current generation was launching. So right as this showed up for PS3 and Xbox 360, people were like, yes, it's a great game, but I've already got rid of a PS3/Xbox 360 for a PS4/Xbox One. It's a very good game, but unfortunately it came out late in that cycle, so late that pretty much everyone had moved on. It kind of feels like Grid 2019 is the vision for Grid Autosport fully realised. This is the Grid game they always wanted to make. Put it this way, I could have left immediately after my hour preview session with the game. I hung around because I was like, well, if I go home, I won't be able to play the game again until, you know, basically it comes out, and I want to keep playing the game. That to me is a pretty good summary of where I'm at with Grid 2019. I wanted to keep playing it long after my mandatory preview period with it was over. That's how engaging it was. The handling, let's start with that. This game has, to me, really seemed to have nailed the old easy to learn, hard to master chestnut. This really felt impressive. It felt fun to drive on a pad, but it also felt like there was real depth to the handling there, especially when you took the assists off, especially like the Daytona prototypes. I drove a race at Silverstone in the Acura DPI, and that car was a handful. Even on, I didn't turn the assists all the way off, they were on one, so it was like one ABS, one traction control, one stability control, and that thing was a handful, but it was a fun handful. And this is how you can tell if a handling model's fun. If you're whipping around and struggling to keep a car under control, but you've got a massive grin on your face, that's the sign of a fun handling model. Not, oh, for God's sake, why do I keep crashing? Why have I plowed into the wall? This is so tedious. Throw steering wheel out the window, start playing The Sims instead. But no, this was definitely in the former camp. The best way to describe the Grid 29 handling as it stands, it has a very solid base, which is very stable, very communicative. You'll kind of know your limits, but each car will also have personality. So for example, a front-wheel drive touring car will of course handle very differently to a rear-wheel drive Corvette C7R GT car. The handling is common across all of them. No matter what you jump into, you should be able to pick it up pretty quickly, but each car has its own quirks and personalities, which are very satisfying to learn, no matter what sort of driver level you're at. Backing that all up with some excellent graphics, the game ran rock solid 60 FPS for the whole time I was playing it, both on PC and PS4. I couldn't see any sort of bugs or noticeable graphical glitches or things like that. The visual effects look excellent. I mean, this is all stuff Codemasters have nailed in some of the recent Formula 1 games and the Dirt games. So obviously they were going to bring some of that graphics technology over to Grid, and it looks fabulous. The rain effects look awesome. The, you know, surface effects, the lighting, especially in night races, just forget about it, just excellent. So I'm very happy with that so far as well. Career mode, that's always going to be a very important one for me. I did actually try out a few events in career mode, and I've got to say, I really like the structure of it. You've got the different disciplines, like from Grid Autosport, so you've got touring cars, stock cars, GT, sports cars, whatever. You've also got some invitational events, which are like one-make races. For example, I think I tried out a one-make classic mini race. They're a great way of earning some extra cash. You do have to buy all of the cars that you use in career modes. The car selection is great, the roster is fantastic, as I've said, and it looked like most of them were pretty freely available. You earn money through winning races and championship results. From where I was standing, it doesn't look like earning credits. You weren't going to be stuck grinding the same races over and over to earn credits for cars. So all of that, lovely. Very good. Thanks for that, Cody's. And the career mode in general had a nice structure to it. You have these tiers and disciplines of cars that you go through, and at the end of each discipline is a showdown event, which to me kind of sounded a bit like the old school showdown events from TOCA Race Driver 1. And once you've completed a certain amount of those showdown events, which means you've completed a certain amount of the different disciplines in the game, you unlock access to the Grid World Series. And to me, it looks like a sort of career mode where there's plenty of variety, there's plenty of interest, there's plenty of stuff to play through. There's a very clear progression. One thing we definitely have to talk about, because it is probably my favorite thing on balance from the preview build that I played, is the AI. This is some of the most fun and satisfying AI I've ever experienced in racing gaming down the years. Not just because the AI on a core level are very satisfying to drive against, they're aggressive without being boneheaded and stupid, but one of the major features being touted for Grid 2019 is the fact that the AI is actually comprised of a roster of pre-programmed drivers. Whenever you spawn into a race, it's not just a name tag above a driver. They are actual drivers in the game that you're spawned against, and each one has very different personalities. Say in a touring car race, you end up racing hard against, I don't know, Dave Smith, and you're like, geez, he was very aggressive in that race, but that was just an AI avatar. If you then show up in a stock car race, and you race against Dave Smith, guess what? He's going to race you aggressively again, because that's just how Dave Smith operates. And that extends to the teammate function that you have. That's the big sort of team management thing this time around. You can hire and fire teammates as you go through the career mode, and you unlock access to new teammates, but each potential teammate has its own personality as well, has their own personality traits. So for example, there is a which I appreciate a lot, teammate commanding mechanic, which to me brings back very big memories of NASCAR 06 Total Team Control. And funnily enough, on that point, there is a rivalry system in this game where if you punt someone or door slam someone, they'll be like, oi, mate, what was that? And there'll be a rival. But the same thing happens for your teammates. So if you have a fairly slow but fairly passive teammate, they'll obey your commands. You can radio your crew and be like, yo, can you tell my teammate that we're clearly faster? Can you get him to put the indicator on and move out my way? You'll get a radio message back saying, oh yeah, your teammate's fine with that, mate. He'll move over in a minute. There you go. On the other end of the scale, you can get very aggressive teammates who are basically Max Verstappen. They'll be very aggressive, but if you try and order them to get out of the way for you or do something to help their teammate, you'll just get a radio message be like, yeah, he's turned his radio off and thrown his radio equipment out the car. He's not listening to you. You've basically got to decide whether you want a Valtteri Bottas or a Max Verstappen as a teammate, and various kind of degrees in between that. Another thing I really like, another sort of nice touch, that kind of seems to be the theme of Grid 2019. It feels familiar to people who have played the original Grids and all the other games, with some nice new touches to really prolong the longevity of the game. Interestingly, one of the few criticisms that I do have at this point in time is that the track list to me doesn't seem that interesting, but if the plan is to keep supporting it with content a la GT Sport, and like what they've done with the roadmap for Dirt Rally 2.0, then that shouldn't be a complaint going forward. Just worth bearing in mind that on launch, the track list might be a little bit slim for your standards. It was for me, not a big deal, but it's very subjective, I know that. There were a couple of other issues that I encountered during my play of the preview build. It seems they're very aware of most of the bugs that we did encounter, and there wasn't really that many. It wasn't like completely game-breaking or anything. One issue that I did encounter a couple of times was one weird one where if an AI car got spun or wrecked during the race, it would just sort of sit there for the rest of the race. It wouldn't disappear, it wouldn't spawn elsewhere, it wouldn't, I don't know, try and pull off to the side of the road. There was one race at Silverstone where someone got spun and was just sort of sitting on the inside of a corner for the entire rest of the race. And every time I came past, I was like, still there. Oh, and I can't really give a full first impressions of Grid 2019 without talking about the multiplayer. We were given a couple of dedicated multiplayer races in this preview session. That is something they expressed that they really wanted to do this time around, which I appreciate a lot. As someone who has previously reviewed some Codemasters games and not been able to really test out the multiplayer before it went live, so I appreciate the fact that this time around, they set up a dedicated multiplayer lobby just with us, you know, who was there. It was like 6 of us or 6 or 8 of us in the session. And we all had a couple of races. And guess who won both the races? I won something. I won some online races. And I was in the same session as Game Riot. I'm dining out on that story forever. It counts, all right? I'm taking that one to the bank. But overall, the multiplayer races were really good fun. Some of you are probably going to be like, well, of course, he won both the races. You're going to say 10 out of 10 for the multiplayer. He won both the races. But no, honestly, I could have finished last in both the races and I'd have had a great time. There were a couple of bugs that apparently they are aware of. Honestly, it's nice that Codemasters are recognizing this as a potential issue because it has been an issue the last few times for their last few games, like the F1 games, and I think Dirt Rally 2.0 had some online internet connection-y issues on launch. It's nice to know that they are prioritizing that this time around and that we were given the chance to actually try out the multiplayer beforehand. Big thumbs up for that, and it's looking pretty good so far. So overall, you might be able to guess this, but my first impressions of Grid 2019, pretty damn good. Thank you guys for jumping into this video. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, give this video a thumbs up. It's rather helpful in the algorithm wars. Drop a comment below what you're looking forward to with Grid 2019. Any skepticism? Are there things you're a little bit wary of? Are you like, I hope they don't do this, or hopefully if they get this right, I'll like it? Discuss down below in the comment section. And subscribe if you are new around here. I do videos at least once a week. If you enjoy more of me actually playing video games, I do have a streaming channel. It's at mixer.com/AJCantFail. Go nuts with all of that, and I'll see you guys soon.